Hi, everyone. So, tonight I thought I'd take a second to answer some of the questions that you guys have asked me over the past several months. Usually they stem from a post that I've written, but some of them I think are just things that people were curious about. I told many of you that I was going to do this a while ago, so I figured that I should finally hold up my end of the bargain. So let me set the scene for you really quick. I'm just laying here in the dark on my couch with a cold cup of coffee that I really should have heated up before settling in here. But I mean, I guess hindsight is always 2020. And I've got this microphone just kind of laying on my chest because I'm feeling pretty casual and hands-free at the moment. And it's about 1:32 a.m. So, if you're wondering why I sound so mellow and toned down, it's because that's exactly what the deal is. But it's all good. You guys have asked me some interesting stuff, so let's get into it. First question, what do you think of long distance relationships? I have definitely done a long distance relationship before. I dated a guy that lived in Kentucky while I lived here in San Diego, and it was tricky. I think they can. I think they can work. You just both have to be in it to the same extent and ready to make a little extra effort, obviously, so that you can still see each other a decent amount to keep it going. Honestly, there can be something kind of exciting about them because you have a chance to really miss each other. But you can also have the tendency to idealize them because you don't get to see them day to day and all kinds of mindsets and through the highs and the lows. So I think that's something to be careful about when you're long distance. Now, at some point down the line, if this is all going really well, someone's going to have to make that move. I can't imagine that you'd want to do that long distance situation for, years on end. That's for sure. Because eventually you've got to be with that person on the daily to see what's up. Personally, these days, I'm absolutely willing to date somebody that's semi long distance for a bit, if they've really captured my interest, and if they're in within a few hours, especially. So usually I consider anywhere from here to LA extremely doable, and beyond that, I guess I just never rule anything out because you find that connection, you don't want to toss that away too quickly. It's kind of important to keep an open mind. So long distance relationships are possible. I think it just requires extra effort, maybe a little bit of extra maturity on both ends. Next question was, sometimes I drink too much on the first date. Should I not drink at all, or what else can I do to get around this? Well, I like to keep it to a 2-drink max on a first date. That's ideal. So it's enough for like a little bit of socialness, but not enough to make me not myself or to blur my judgment or make me falsely attracted in any way. Especially when you're first meeting up with someone, you want to get a realistic gauge on whether you two have a nice vibe and some things in common. If you feel like you struggle with a limit, then by all means, like swap to a daytime situation or cut it down to just coffee dates so you don't have the pressure of alcoholic beverage looming over you. You don't have to be tipsy to get to know each other. You just get yourself nice and caffeinated and talk to that person across the table. Next question. Online dating hasn't been working out for me and I'm frustrated. Should I even keep trying? Well, I hear you there. I mean, personally, I haven't been in the mood to do any swiping lately because it's all felt like a really big waste of time. Also, I found that my thought process when swiping hasn't been, oh, let me find a nice compatible man to date. It's been more because I'm bored. Like that's when I end up swiping. And I don't think that's the right motivation, really. So if you feel like it's not working and your efforts are wasted, I say take a little break at least. You don't have to be in the online dating game. You could meet some people in the real life way. If it's been frustrating in general, then change up your focus and maybe stop looking for a bit. Sometimes I think when we stop seeking things out, they end up having the ability to work themselves out naturally. We're just not trying to force anything. We're just kind of going with the flow. Online dating can also be like a way to meet too many people. I think it gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes. It's like, how are you supposed to focus? How are you supposed to focus when there's been several people now thrown your way and it becomes a lot. It becomes a lot. So I'd say take a break and see if you feel the need to even get back into it after you've had the chance to detox from it for a little bit. Next question is, what makes you attracted to somebody that's not your usual type or just in general? Okay. Well, any kind of strong talent or drive is very attractive. And honestly, like somebody that treats me like a lady. I've started to come to terms with the fact that I might be a little bit old-fashioned. Like I like a man that opens doors and has a certain gentlemanly quality to him, because I don't seem to run into that super often anymore. And I don't know if that's just the people that I've been meeting or if that's, becoming less common out here or whatever. But I don't know. I think that kind of stuff is very attractive. Also, humor is key. Like anyone that I feel like I can joke around with and makes me laugh automatically becomes more attractive. The main thing, I think the really big one for me right now, is someone that is in the mindset I'm in currently, where they're just trying to be really self-aware and maybe break old thought patterns that haven't been particularly helpful and become better versions of themselves. I think I'm drawn to that because that's where my head's at. And maybe some part of me likes to hold out hope that just because we're doing some inner work doesn't mean we have to do that alone all the time. Sometimes I find myself thinking that I have to get to a certain point of worth and achieve a certain ideal before I can even let myself get into a relationship. And, I don't know if that's really the right mindset. I think we should always consider ourselves worthy, and it's just that we have to find somebody that's riding the same wavelength that we are. Now, just to clarify, what I don't want to do is get into a situation where either of us are trying to fix each other. No one wants to feel like someone is trying to fix them. I don't think that's healthy, and I think true fixing and progress towards whatever we feel is holding ourselves back needs to come from us anyway. What I do think could be healthy and enjoyable is just having that nice support system in place. Like this person you're seeing understands what your hot buttons are, what you're working on, and is a non-judgmental and kind of encouraging presence as you face whatever it is that you're facing or working through. That's their job and that's your job for them. You're not fixing. They're just kind of a safe place and somebody that accepts your full self, and you can really just talk to them about anything. Maybe that's just what a healthy relationship is. I don't know. Maybe it's idealistic. But it sounds kind of nice, doesn't it? Next question was, how long should I wait to text someone back after a date? Okay. Like what a game that's become, right? It's all so frustrating. There seem to be so many rules about how we're supposed to talk to each other. I don't truly know what the rules are anymore to be honest with you. Like, why can't we just talk? If you want to talk to me, you should be able to just text or call me. And that's it. Like, we shouldn't have to be worried about whether it's been a few hours or it's been a few days. Why can't we just talk whenever we feel like it without feeling like we're going to be judged for it? I find myself overthinking texts to people, and I hate that. I hate that I do that. It's this huge game we've created that gets in the way of us just being able to communicate freely. And it bothers me. We have so many ways to connect these days, and somehow that's made it harder to connect. I mean, it's wild. I say if you're interested, show it. I mean, you don't want to overwhelm them with a barrage of texts or whatever, like but just be normal. If you want to talk to someone, talk to someone. Next question is, how should we define success? Well, Jesus. Success for me is about making progress, having an idea of where I want to get to and the way I want to live, not just financially, but really as a whole, and consistently taking steps in that direction, taking control of whatever things I can control and working around the things that I can't. But really, it's been about deciding to be my truest self and to continue to figure out what that really means, and to make plans accordingly to make sure that my momentum is forward. I've also been trying to work towards making sure that I'm my most honest self, no matter the company or situation. I think that's something that we'd all benefit from, really. It's like principle-based living, where you're always living by certain principles, no matter who's around you or what's going on. Now, all of that is not always an easy thing, I'll tell you. And I have to very regularly remind myself that I've got to find some contentment in the journey to goals as much as getting there, because that way I'm living more in the present than in trying to live in an expectation of how things are supposed to happen. And I think it's kind of a way to find a little bit more satisfaction in daily life. Because once you reach a goal, you always just make another goal. There's always something to reach. So if you can figure out a way for the journey to become important too, then that's probably more satisfying as a whole. Most importantly, I think we have to make sure that we don't allow other people's definition of success to get in the way of ours. You have to know what your priorities are in life and take whatever steps you need to make sure that you're putting your time into things that really matter to you. And then just try. Think about how many people don't even try to do what they want. So if you're doing that, you're already ahead of the game. Next question was, what's the best pickup line you've ever heard? I'm going to use the word best loosely here because I'm not a fan of anything that feels like a line. If you have a line, all my mind jumps to is, he says this to everyone. And that's just not how you want to feel when approached by somebody, is it? But if I was going to give an example of one that was just at least had me like, oh, well, you got me, then I got to tell you about the man that stopped me and my friend on a sidewalk in Times Square, New York. He stopped us and he was like, hey, do you guys know where this bar is? Okay, I don't know. I don't remember what bar he said because I barely knew where I was on the planet in that moment. Like we were just kind of wandering around unknown territory. But then we said, no, sorry, we're not from here. We're thinking he's a tourist like ourselves. And then he comes back with, oh, really? Well, I'm headed there now. You two should join me for a drink. And I was like, damn, like this, he just blindsided us with a pickup line. Not only that, he did a double pickup, me and a friend. right? That's some confidence right there. You couldn't even be mad at it. You just had to laugh and kind of say touche, you know. We still didn't go, but touche, like, it's pretty good. I mean, honestly, like, when we were out there, those New York guys were bold. Seriously. Very different from the men that I usually meet out here in California, but that's a story for another time. The next question was, what's one of the weirdest dreams you've ever had? Had some weird ones, haven't we all? Okay, I'll tell you this one. So I've actually had this dream about 3 times in my life, 3 or 4, same one. So here's the deal. I'm standing in the middle of the freeway, like on the median thing, right? And it's night, and I'm walking down this freeway with cars just flying by on both sides. I remember it being very windy, and I did not seem to have a coat or a jacket. Okay? So it's a very chilly situation. But the most important part is that I'm clutching a rat tightly to my chest. Now, some of you are thinking, a rat? That's gross. But no, this rat was my best friend. And in this dream, like, I love it down to the marrow of my bones, you know, like we are connected, me and this rat. And it means the absolute world to me as I'm walking down this median on a freeway. And then, completely against my own will, because I didn't feel like I had control of my body, and to my just absolute horror and disgust, I just drop this rat into traffic. I just drop it. And then I wake up in a gut-wrenching panic, nearly in tears, if not in full tears, every single time. I mean, that's a wild one, because that comes with those real feelings, you know, like those are the crazy dreams where you come out of it and you gotta shake it out of you, you know. But I mean, get on that one. All you dream interpreters out there, you guys let me know what that one means. The next question, real quick one, is Diamond really your last name? No, Diamond is not my last name, but it is my middle name. Moving on. Why should I be a nice guy if girls seem to want bad boys? So to that I say, if you're a nice guy, you need to be that nice guy. You just have to. That doesn't mean being a pushover or being whipped or whatever. Pretending to be a bad boy isn't something that you'll be comfortable maintaining, and it won't lead you to the right woman anyway. On another note, the bad boy thing, like I feel like as women, we go through that phase, most of us, and some have a harder time getting out of it than others, for sure. But the bad boy thing is superficial most of the time. Women are attracted to the vibe of it. You know, maybe it's just kind of a certain energy that he puts out, and overconfidence. Maybe it's a little bit of the look of it, you know, whether it's tattoos or whatever you think is like kind of that stereotypical bad boy look. But like deep down, they still want that guy to be nice to them. Like, even if he's a bad boy, they're like, you know, he's a bad boy to the rest of the world, but to me, he's super sweet. I feel like that's kind of what the energy of that perception is. And say that I'm completely wrong, and this woman just wants to be treated kind of poorly by somebody. Like, they just don't mind being treated badly. They want a bad boy that does not respect them, does not treat them well. Well, probably better to leave that lady alone anyway, because she's got some things to work out. That's not going to work out for you anyway. There's nothing wrong with being a nice guy and then just having to kind of have the patience to wait for the woman that's right for you and will appreciate that. It's key you just have to be as much of yourself as you can manage, because that's the person you're going to want them to like in the long run. Next question was, have you ever had a near-death experience? Well, not really. Not really. I'll share this with you just in the attempt of giving you some sort of answer here. But I mean, I've had a moment where I was at a stoplight and the light turned green and I couldn't get my car into gear. Couldn't get into first gear. I drive stick. And I'm sitting there struggling with it. And I'm like, embarrassed. I'm embarrassed in my car that my car's holding up the line. And right then, a car going full on freeway speed goes barreling through the intersection the opposite way, running their red light. So, I mean, thank God I couldn't get my car into gear because I would have been right in that car's path. And it just slid right into gear after that. And I was able to go. So that's just kind of one of those weird moments where you just, contemplate your existence, I guess, I've also been on a plane that was going through just some wild turbulence. And while everyone else is panicking, I just kind of felt like this overwhelming sense of calm because I realized that if something happened, I just had no control over it. Like there's just nothing I could do. Obviously, I made it out just fine, but it was interesting to see that my mind went to like a peaceful place during that kind of treacherous moment. Those are not actual near-death experiences, of course, but it's the best I've got for you right now. Knock on all kinds of wood. This next question is the one that I actually get asked the most, and it is, what are your biggest fears? Well, if I really think about it, I mean, sometimes I do have that very common fear of ending up alone. And here's the thing is like I've become very good at being alone and doing my own thing. I wrote something about this as well. I've never been a person that's constantly in relationships. In fact, I tend to keep them fewer and far between. I know how to appreciate time with myself to relax and kind of get my head clear. And I think it's important that we all learn to figure out how to enjoy our own company because, we're stuck with ourselves forever, and that's a good thing. You have to like yourself. You have to be okay with being with yourself. But sometimes I think I do have a fear of ultimately ending up without a partner. And I think that's probably pretty normal for a person that's not had the best of success in the relationship area thus far. But I try not to strain myself too much on that one because I like to think it'll work itself out in time. And I'm worrying about that one for no reason. I think that one is actually a pretty common fear for many people. Second, and most relevant, I think, is that I fear regret. The idea that I didn't take advantage of a chance or opportunity because I was afraid. So within reasonable parameters, of course, I push myself to say yes when a door opens and to do things that make me really uncomfortable, Because the idea of not doing them because of fear is more painful. I think that should be more painful. We don't have to be comfortable all the time, and it's important that we don't let ourselves get comfortable all the time because that's not where our progress is. It's not where we're going to find that forward movement. I try to do things even when I think my feelings might get hurt or that I might not be the best at something or that I could just put myself in a place to feel like awkward or judged because maybe those things will happen and maybe they won't. But I won't know if I don't kind of dive into it. And we should only consider something a true failure if we didn't even try. That should be the mentality for all of us. Ideally, we should try to encourage other people around us, for our friends or family or, anybody in our surroundings to really take advantage of opportunities or attempt things that they really want to do. Because, life is short and I'm still trying to figure out how I'm 30 and that's not even old, I think fear is at the root of most of our disappointments and roadblocks, you know? So, what I've been trying to remind myself when that little wave of fear hits me is that I have to choose faith over fear. And I read that somewhere, and I just can't remember where right now. But, you know, it's about faith over fear. You have faith that it'll work out how it's supposed to in the end. And you just have to keep showing up and taking control of what you can take over, which is doing your best in that moment. And then just continuing to learn from whatever happens. Because it's all you really have control over. If you want to get like more like practical, like phobias, I'm afraid of strangers sneezing or coughing in my face. When I was a kid, I was super afraid of throwing up. Despite being like a very healthy child for the most part, like that for some reason was just a thing with me. And I used to be afraid of butterflies. How stupid is that? Like, that's dumb. It was something about how they just flap about in just a wild and unpredictable manner that you can't tell where they're headed or like what's on their minds. I don't know. I've since moved past that fear. At this point, I think they're pretty beautiful. Well, I think that does it for this Q&A session, everybody. It's pretty late, and I am all kinds of drowsy. But I hope you guys enjoyed this late night conversation that we just had. If you ever have any other questions for me, feel free to head over to my site, CourtneyDiamond.com, to get in touch with me. Or you can also find me at Courtney Diamond on Instagram and Twitter. I hope you're doing well wherever you are, and I'll talk to you guys next time.